really a scientific field. Companies that are involved are constantly looking to make advancements in their technology, improve on what they're doing, improve the yield from their wells. And it wasn't that long ago that there wasn't horizontal drilling, that all they did was vertical. And then horizontal drilling came into play, and they were excited they could go 1,000 feet when they started working in the Barnett. Now, it's not unusual for them to go a mile on horizontal, 2 miles on horizontal. Really, the only thing that stops them from going to 5 miles is really lease issues. The technology is there now. If you look at the literature from Halliburton and Baker Hughes, for them, from one pad site to go a long ways. And so, as this technology improves over the years, I think the concept of having a whole lot of pad sites is going to go away, because from one pad site, you can get a lot of different places. Especially in Grand Prairie, where we're kind of long and skinny. It doesn't take a lot of time to get from one side of town to the other. So, in some cases, it may take cooperation among different operators to pool their leases and things like that. Share pad sites. I know Mansfield has started to require their companies to share pad sites in some cases, rather than reproduce a pad site right nearby. So, but our current setbacks, and these are, I think we've had these since the very beginning, right? Okay, these are our original setbacks. Anything over 500 feet is approvable by staff. And we have the 3 categories: high impact, and rural. Below 500 requires city council approval, and city council can approve down to 300 feet, and that approval requires a 3/4 vote. That is our current scheme of how we do permits. How that plays out in the field, our current setback is measured from the well bore. Out of the 48 pad sites that we have out there, 17 were greater than 1,000 feet, 17 were in that interval between 600 and 1,000, 14 were between 500 and 600, and 2 were less than 500. Both of those were related to adjacency to a park, and both of those were approved by the city council. We have since changed the ordinance that if adjacency to a park is the only issue, we have empowered the parks director to make a call as to whether, if he believes it would not negatively impact the park, he could approve those. If not, it comes to city council. But in no case can, under the current scheme, can you get closer than 300 feet. And kind of give you an idea of how that plays out across the city. If you look on this map, the red dots, red squares, represent the high impact wells. So you can kind of see, this also gives you a feel for most of the drilling has been in the southern part of the city, and that's where most of our complaints have come from. It's where the activity is. Up north, folks have not been impacted, and so we really don't hear too much from these folks. We have 48 total pad sites, and so the red ones are considered high impact. In the proposal, we have 2 classifications of pad sites. First is what we call Class 2. This is greater than 1,000 feet, and the proposal provides for administrative approval. We would process those as we typically do now and approve those at a staff level. The other classification is what we call Class 1. There's actually 2 options for this class. One is that for the distance between 700 feet and 1,000 feet, and when I say this distance, this is from protected use. And we're measuring from the edge of the pad site now. If they have 70% waivers from those protected uses, it can be administratively approved. And remember, these setbacks are only for protected uses. If it's a warehouse or factory or anything like that, the setback is 300. It's not coming to city council. This only is for protected uses, which are your residences, your churches, your schools, those kinds of things.
You got started. Keep going. Could you tell us what protected uses are?
Okay. There are things like residences, medical facilities, schools, churches. It's places where people congregate.
Do we know what do we have that listed somewhere?
There is an actual definition in the ordinance at the very beginning that goes into detail on what are protected uses.
Only on page 4 of the...
So, libraries, skating rinks, restaurants, dance halls, chapels, auditoriums, assembly halls, theaters. It's where people get together. It's not industrial warehouses. It's not industrial facilities. It's not gas stations, things like that. So.
Okay, on the setbacks here, I've read through this ordinance 2 or 3 times and marked it up, and it severely curtail what happens in Grand Prairie in the future. A good number of people that will be excluded from participating in that. I'm talking about landlords. And that needs to be addressed, looked at, on the distance. And the real distance is not 1,000 feet. Because you're now measuring from the sand line instead of the grill stand, so you're looking at 1,100 feet. So you're eliminating a good deal of the possible sites. Now, those are facts. I have not seen, and I would like to see, a financial study of the impact that the gas activity would have on the city, school district, and its citizens.
You know, and as far as the, just to finish on the setbacks real quick, if they have 70% waivers, it would be administrative approval. If they didn't have the waivers, they would have to come to city council for approval. Additionally, on the administrative approval, if there is a specific set of circumstances that staff felt uncomfortable with the approval process, it would default to go to city council. And Councilmember Thorne is correct. The 700 feet is from the edge of the pad site, and so it's a different way of measuring. The reason we're doing that is to capture the frac pond in as part of the pad site, and basically treat the thing as a whole rather than try to. It's all split up with frac ponds, not really part of the operation under our ordinance. So.
Am I not correct? If it does go to the city council, it requires 3/4 of the city council to approve it.
Right. It's the same as the current ordinance. And I guess our next slide, these are from our GIS system, and you have copies of these in your notebook, and I apologize if they're hard to read up here. But what we asked them to do, and you have to understand, this is on a macro level, so it's accurate, but if someone comes in with this map for an application, we're going to require a little bit more. But on the left, it shows the pieces of property with a 500-foot setback that can be developed as a pad site. And on the right is the 700-foot. And so I think a lot of people are under a misconception that in our heavily urbanized area up through here, that there's land available for pad sites. There's not. We are built out pretty much north of, you know, Pioneer Parkway. So there's not a lot, even under the existing ordinance, that would provide an opportunity. And for those that are getting excited about up here, this area, well, this is a wastewater treatment plant, and this is a landfill. So I don't think we'll have any gas drilling. At least I can speak for the landfill. We won't have any. I don't know about TRA. So I think when you look at a map like this, there's really not a lot of difference between the two. I mean, under the current orders, it is restricted. So, and I would have to say that, you know, the GIS system measures from buildings, so it also picks up buildings that are not necessarily a protected use. So there may be, on both maps, more areas that are available. Our GIS just doesn't have the ability to run a layer with just protected uses. You just don't have that ability right now.
Yes.
There could be industrial and light industrial within these two maps. We
Right.
can't distinguish between the two.
Right.
So there could be a little bit more open land for filling that
Right,
size.
right.
Just can't tell. them.
Right. When you get up in this area, the setbacks actually, you know, I mean, it's all industrial, it's 300 feet, and so it's not going to show on these maps. We tried running three, you know, you end up with a map that's unusable when you try to run all those layers. So, you know, to give you an idea of going back, you know, to be fair as far as disclosure, if this had been our ordinance from the very beginning, 11 of our pad sites would have been approved administratively. Another 11 would have either, if they had the waivers or whatever, they would come to city, we would approve them, or they could come to city council. And 26 of our pad sites would not be allowed to exist under the proposal. So, I think we have one last map. This just talks about what I just said. The ones in red are the pad sites that would not be able to exist under the proposed ordinance. Now, existing pad sites are grandfathered, so they will not be forced to go away. They will continue to be able to be drilled on. The only requirement would be that they would have to meet the new ordinance as far as noise, dust, and things like that. You know, the only thing that they would be grandfathered on is the setback. The setback would not put them on business.
Give us yours about 5 or 6 minutes.
Okay.
Let's stretch.